Hello there, and welcome into WCSN's continuing coverage of Arizona State men's basketball. Alongside Braiden Bell, I'm Rob Werner at Wells Fargo Arena, where the Utah Utes just took down the Arizona State Sun Devils 80-77 in overtime. Braiden, there was a wild finish to this game, but in the end of regulation, another crazy story in itself. Shannon Evans drives the length of the court, hits a contested layup to give the Sun Devils a 69-66 lead, but then with 7 seconds to go, Cedric Fairfield comes down the court and nails a contested three to take this game into overtime. What did Utah do to get the victory in overtime tonight?
Well, it was a wild start to overtime, Rob. You mentioned the end of regulation. Overtime was just as wild as the beginning. Both teams were making all their shots. It was wild here in Wells Fargo Arena, and then it's like a flip was switched. Both teams couldn't do anything all of a sudden. There were turnovers. It was sloppy basketball. In the last 2 minutes of overtime, it was really just a gritty ball game, and Utah just did enough. I mean, statistically speaking, this was about as close as it can get. Shooting percentage, turnovers, points in the paint, everything was very similar. But Utah just gritted out this win, and that's something they've always been very good at under head coach Larry Kristoviak. And it's another tough loss for Arizona State. It's kind of becoming a pattern, and especially to lose on your home floor, it's never easy.
And you mentioned some of the negatives for ASU tonight, but there were some positives too. Senior point guard Trey Holder really looked like he got back to himself a little bit. He had 23 points, 7 of 7 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds as well. What did the senior guard do well tonight?
Trey Holder was fantastic, and I know this team's not into moral victories, especially when you lose here at Wells Fargo Arena, but he was phenomenal. I mean, like you said, 10 rebounds was a huge thing for him. That's not something you see from a point guard pretty much, and he was down low in the paint, banging around with the big guys all night long, and he just had his flow. He just looked comfortable on offense. That's something we haven't really seen in a few games, and obviously the team lost tonight, and that's not what you want if you're an Arizona State fan, but to see Trey Holder back on his game is crucial. Because if this team is going to turn around and start playing like they did in the non-conference, they need Trey Holder to be himself, and he looked like that tonight.
And with this loss, the Sun Devils fall to 3-5 in conference play. That all but nails the hopes of a Pac-12 championship in the regular season. If you're the Sun Devils, though, where do you go from here in terms of regrouping for the postseason?
It's tough because when you're ranked third in the country and everyone's saying that you're one of the favorites to win the conference, now you're sitting at 3-5. It's a punch in the gut. There's no doubt about it, because your goals all of a sudden have gone from up here to down here, and they're just going to have to run on the fly with it. And it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be up to the leadership of this team. And that is something that is a strength with the senior guards that everyone talks about every time you talk about this team. And with head coach Bobby Hurley, they are going to have to step up and kind of try to regroup this season, because it's a very tough spot right now. They're not only just losing games, but it seems like they're losing them so closely, and it's so easy every time they lose to look back and say, man, if they would have done this one thing differently, they would have won. Those are the tough games to lose, and they're the tough ones to handle. But the season's not over by any stretch. They still have great wins. They're still most likely going to make the NCAA tournament. So they just have to regroup, and your goal now might be to finish in the top 4 in the conference, to get a bye in Vegas in the Pac-12 tournament. And this team's built for tournament play, so anything can happen in March. You guys all know that at home. You know it, Rob. So, I mean, it's been a tough stretch. It's not what people expected through the first 8 games of conference play, but the season's not over.
And for the Sun Devils, there's no rest for the weary as they take on Colorado in just 2 days on Saturday evening, right back here at Wells Fargo Arena. But right now, for Braiden Bell and myself, Rob Werner, at Wells Fargo Arena, Cronkite Sports.